Welcome to Not So Silent, episode 21. We are legally able to drink. We should do shots for today. All right. Let's get rock and rolling. This is our 21st episode. Today's show, we got a ton of stuff to talk about. We are going to be going over lockdowns are making a comeback. I'm sure Chris is going to be excited to talk about COVID. Biden says he's built a great voter fraud organization. All the anecdotes point to Donald Trump, but the polls point to Biden. What to make of it? We got serious or satire, 30 seconds of bliss, some prognostication station. We'll do a little bit of sports, and we will finish off with our top five non-politicians or non-establishment people we want to see run in 2024. All right, Chris, welcome. Chris from St. Louis. I'm here in Nashville. Let's get started. Oh, before we get started, please do me a favor. There's a lot of you who listen, and I totally appreciate it. I look at the viewership and listenership every week, and it's continuing to climb. But some of you, you're not sharing it. Some of you aren't going to notsosilent.com and joining our newsletter. And I'm just talking over Chris right now. So make sure that you subscribe to us on YouTube. Share it on Instagram or whatever. We're pretty active now on Instagram with AB and Bryce doing a lot of work on Instagram and Facebook and YouTube and Twitter and everything else. Go to Twitter and follow us at notsosilentpod, at notsosilentpod, or facebook.com/notsosilentpod. Seriously, go follow us on Twitter, and I promise you, I will send you some really, really good nuggets every single day. All right, Chris, let's get started. We are back to lockdowns. I know you don't want to talk about COVID. You can't go dark because it's just you and me today. So we need to talk about COVID and the lockdowns. Hey, come on back.
I want to just give a shout out to AB real quick. He's done some great work for us, and we're sad to see him sign with the Bucks. They are paying him more, as we were paying him next to zero. I will say he was actually good for our culture, but we also didn't talk to him much. So congrats on that, AB, and good luck.
Now moving to the Bucks, we'll see what Tom Brady can do with him. All right, so lockdowns are back. We're seeing a spike again in coronavirus cases here in the United States. I don't know what to make of it, but here's the real news that I wanted to talk about. All right, so we got Ireland did a full shelter in place as a country. And that's not even really being talked about. What is being talked about is Italy. Italy has gone to shutting down restaurants and bars at 6 p.m. So I guess before 5 o'clock, coronavirus doesn't come out, but at 6, all the coronavirus demons pop out. So they're shutting down their restaurants and bars. The Czech Republic.
That makes sense. That makes sense. Coronavirus is starting to get older, wakes up earlier in the morning, does its Bible reading, eats dinner at Denny's at about 4:30, in bed by 6, start the day bright and early the next day.
Yeah, there you go. So no, that would be the opposite. So they are shutting down at 6. I don't think it makes much sense. The Czech Republic did a partial lockdown for 3 weeks. All schools, restaurants, bars, everything closed. And that's and then Paris is saying that they might be, by the end of next week, up to 90% hospital bed filled. And we're starting to see it come back here in our great America. There's a reason why we left Chicago, and Chicago land and some of the counties like DuPage County, which is a very highly populated, I believe the second most populated county behind Cook, just went back to phase 3, which phase 3 means restaurants and bars can't have indoor anything. I think gyms are closed, etc. So we're seeing a really big shift back to the lockdowns. What do you make of this?
Well, so far, I like that we have a bunch of states, and the states are deciding what is best for their state. And we can see who's right in the end. And we're not going to bail out anybody who crashes their economy and decides to close everything down. I think Trump said it best when he said the cure cannot be worse than the disease. If we have to shut down the economy to cure this thing, it's not a viable alternative. It just isn't. So we need to go the route of Sweden. Keep everything open, shelter the old people, keep them sheltered in place, take care of them. But everybody has got to go back to work. Everybody young that does not really get affected by this has got to go back to work. Don't give me the crying anecdote of like, what if your so-and-so died? What if I died? That's a risk we all have to take, okay? Like, we're America. There's assumed risks every single day you go out in the real world. We've been through that type of conversation before. I think it's a gigantic mistake to close down economies again. I mean, they're not going to recover. New York is a ghost town. The rich have left. The small business owners have all died off. Like, they're not going to recover from this. And unless they get an entirely Democratic House, Senate, and the presidency, they're not getting any money for this either.
Well, and Biden, this was something Biden said that really wasn't talked about. I tweeted out about it. What Biden said specifically when it came to lockdowns, and he said, yes, I would lock down bars and restaurants again. And then it was asked of him, well, what do you do? And he said, well, we got to give them money. And then we have to bail out those people that gave him money. So bail out those municipalities. And I'm going, isn't that really socialism? Isn't that really how socialism begins? Is, hey, they're not working. They're not producing for our world. So what we'll do, though, is we'll give them money. And then someone has to give the person who gave them money. And the government has to give the government money. And so essentially it becomes more or less a socialist world. It was what he said. People didn't get that, but that is socialism. When you have to bail out, you're just creating a socialist environment. I get there's times when it makes sense. You have to help and so on. But all this is going to do is breed socialism, or it's going to put tons of Main Street out of business. I mean, restaurants and bars, I don't know how you would survive. If you're in DuPage County and outside Chicago, and you've now been shut down 3 different times, but during that time you were told to pay your employees, in many cases, not yourself, but pay your employees. And if you did get any PPP money, you had to give it to them. So you gave it to these employees so that they had some money, but you weren't generating any. You were still paying rent in most cases, or getting some rent pushback, but you still have to pay it eventually. You don't just not have to pay it for the months of April, May, and June, and then again in September and October, and then again in November. You can't just not pay rent for 6 months. And if you do, well, then the commercial real estate people, they're going to go out of business. Someone is going to get crushed by this. And then on top of it, they said, hey, you know what? Now you can reopen, turn your lights on, go buy food again, which, by the way, you bought food that went bad. Go buy food, but you can only have 25 or 50% of the people in, and you have to put in plexiglass and buy hand sanitizer and retrain all your employees and get masks for everyone and all the rest. So spend more money. This isn't viable. This doesn't make any sense. This is going to shut down the world again. And there's just got to be a better way. I do understand there are some spiking cases. I get that. And I'm not totally insensitive to the fact that this disease can be serious for certain types of people. And yes, I do understand a young person can die from it, although incredibly unlikely, just like a young person can die from the flu. I think the statistics, we know enough about this now. The mortality rate has come down enough. This is crazy. And actually, now that Italy is getting back on, I've been waiting to talk about one of the arguments for why Italy had such a challenging situation had to do with socialized medicine. I read about it in the JACC, which was further down in this large paper, but one of the challenges was the socialist healthcare really was great for about the first 10 years, but after a while, what ended up happening was hospital closures, and then this year they needed those hospitals. Yeah. So I'm waiting for the new field hospitals to get built again, like they were back in March and never used here back in the States, and it just seems to be getting out of control.
Yeah, why I don't care. What would bother me is if it were a federal mandate being shoved down people's throats. I don't care if Chicago wants to lock down again. I don't care if New York wants to lock down again. I don't care if San Francisco. I care if Missouri locks down again. You know, darn straight. I care if Nashville locks down again. But we did what this is great about this country. We voted with our feet. We left cities that we didn't like policies for. As long as it's not a federal mandate, I don't care. Destroy your economy. Do what you want. Maybe you'll be right. All right. But we've got enough southern states, enough sensible states that are not locking down. And the numbers just are not that different from those that did lock down.
They're not. And the thing is, Biden has built his whole campaign around Trump handling this poorly. And I think what you're seeing in Europe, now that it's spiking again and everything else, you're starting to see that, like, Biden likes to play this, like, look at what Trump did. Everyone in the world is dealing with this. Every single country, this has hurt their economy. This has caused death, etc. And there isn't like 10 countries that have just done amazing with it and the rest haven't. And therefore you can say Trump did bad. This is hurting everyone. In fact, Trump probably has done better than most when it came to this. Yes, we've had a lot of death. We also have a lot of people and We have much better reporting than most of these other countries that are highly populated. In fact, if you start to look, India, which is a very, very populated country, is spiking up, and I think eventually we'll end up having more death than us. And so on. Brazil is rising up the charts. China, I'm sure, has had 9 billion people die from this already. They just have told us it's like 4,000. So I just think this is nuts, and I'm hopeful that enough people, and I do think it'll happen. I think enough people are going to fight back this time. I think there's going to be people who just, if I owned a restaurant, I would say, you know what, take my liquor license or whatever. I don't have a choice. It's either fight you or go out of business. So I might as well just fight you and see if I can win.
There are enough conservative Americans that I think states, again, there'll be enough states that don't do it. We'll have comparable data. And I think that's the best way to do it. So
I agree. All right. So Joe Biden, one of my favorite stories of the week, and it was not talked about nearly as much. Joe Biden had one of his typical amazing gaffes, and this one might have been the best. As everyone is talking about, Trump said, there might be voter fraud and all this stuff. Joe Biden says, and I quote, "We have put together, I think, the most extensive and inclusive voter fraud organization in the history of American politics." We have put together, I think, the most extensive and inclusive voter fraud organization in the history of American politics.
So I got a question for you about this. And the transcript is a lot worse than listening to it in real time. I listened to it in real time and I'm like, did he just say put together a voter fraud? I had to listen to it again. And then you read the transcript, you're like, that's really bad. Do you think this is just another Biden gaffe? Or do you think that, in a Freudian way, like, he has put together the most extensive voter fraud thing, and it was just a slip of the mind. He said the quiet part out loud. It was in his brain, and he accidentally said it.
My thought when I first saw it, I thought, oh my gosh, I got to find out if this is real, right? I saw it like right when it came out, and I even retweeted it, and I had to find out, was this thing real, or is this like one of those, voiceovers or whatever? And it was real. And I thought, okay, well, clearly this is a gaffe. There's no way he said it. Is it Freudian? I don't know. But what it said to me is, again, and I read an article from the BBC, which, tends to be left-leaning like all journalism, but a relatively fair article. And it talked about Biden's campaign and how well it was run because he has not been out much and he is gaffe prone. I mean, this is like people who support him are saying he's prone to this. And I'm just picturing, this guy is going to get millions of votes. I don't know how many, 50 million, 60 million, whatever votes are going to go to a guy that everyone knows says stupid stuff all the time, stupid stuff that's racist, but accidental and he apologizes for it. Or stuff like this, where it could be Freudian or not, but it's like ridiculously dumb. And he says it all the time. And this is the man that you're going to elect to the free world, or the head of the free world. Then you're going to elect a guy that you're too afraid of him getting sick, so he has to stay in his basement for months at a time. Like, this is crazy to me that this is the best that the Democrats could come up with. And again, I'm a right-wing thinker and always have been, but at the same time, I was open to another candidate against Donald Trump that I thought was going to be moderate, normal. I thought Mark Cuban was going to be normal until he really started pushing more left, but this guy is terrible. Joe Biden has to be the worst candidate the left has put up ever. Maybe worse than Hillary Clinton.
It wasn't like there were other options on stage in the primaries either. Well, there were a couple, but they got no media press whatsoever. Like an Andrew Yang and a Tulsi Gabbard are the only ones that I can think of that were sensible, reasonable people. But what you're stating is, again, to most of our listeners who are conservative, they weren't conservative because they chose it. They chose logic and educating themselves on policy, and by default, they go, oh, I guess I'm conservative. There's a reason why it's really hard to book liberals on talk shows, on long form podcasts. They don't really want to go on them because they don't know how to give an answer for what they believe in. It's just a straight ideology. So they're afraid to even debate. You see any of them come on Fox News and it's just astonishing. They won't even answer questions. But again, if the world was logical, there'd be no progressives.
No, and every time I look at Twitter or whatever it is to try to get a sense of the liberal side, almost never do you see policy. Never do you see policy disagreements. It's just egotistic. You're racist, systemic racist. They never come out and say, here, this is the one thing that has really hurt our country. It's just this general idea that they don't like, which they really can't even pinpoint. It's frustrating. So polls have Biden in the lead in almost all the swing states. 10 out of 12, according to what I most recently saw in the USA Today. However, all I hear and see is tremendous support for Donald Trump. I got videos from friends who are down in Florida. They sent me a video of just a random Trump parade, a car parade with flags and everything. Another one from Sedona, Arizona. These are both swing states. Same thing was reported, that it was over 5 miles long of this, of a Trump parade. And we're just seeing a tremendous amount of, you see Trump doing his rallies with, 10,000 people at it. And then you see Obama, video of Barack Obama, former vice president. I don't care if George W. Bush was going to go to a street corner and preach. I think you'd get 500 people. I would go listen. And I don't even really like him, but he's a former president. It's pretty cool to see it. And you saw the video of Barack Obama. There was like 12 people out there listening to him. So I don't know what to make of these polls. I'm starting to believe that the polls are far less of gauging the world that we live in and how people think, and they're just being used way more as propaganda. They make up some poll with 1,200 people to come out, and the media uses it as, see, Biden's winning, go vote for Biden. I don't know if it's working, though. What do you make of this poll difference?
Well, voter registration in all swing states, to my knowledge, is up way over Democrats. So we have more registered conservatives than Democrats in terms of an increase over last time. I don't think Trump has lost much of his base. I see there's the walk away campaign. There's the Blexit campaign. If you don't know, Blexit is the black exit. Candace Owens had set up. There's the walk away, which is like Democrats that have walked away from Democrats.
I tweeted out a video of a hashtag walk away. It was a fantastic one of a liberal guy.
Now, Democrats are leading in early voting, but they always lead in early voting. Now in Michigan, Trump is leading early voting. Well, here's another thing. The polls are showing in Montana that Trump is only up by like 6 points, which would be like a 13-point swing from the last election. They're showing that Texas is neck and neck. And it may be that the entire country has shifted left. But don't tell me Montana has lost 13 points, one of the most conservative states in the union. There's absolutely no way. I think the polling is completely screwed up. Yet he's closer in swing states. None of it makes any sense. And yes, I think the pollsters corrected for their last mistakes, but what if they made corrections and it made it twice as bad? My thought is that they're missing what some have called the silent Trump vote, which is people that just will not talk politics. They will not say who they're voting for. And they're vastly underestimating the silent Trump vote.
Yeah. And here's new information's coming out. Early voting is up to 60 million people have already voted. Which is almost 50% of what voted in the last election.
That's crazy.
Some are predicting up to 150 million people will vote out of the roughly 240 million who can, which would be a modern record for percentage. Way back in the 1800s, right around the Civil War era, it was like 90% people who could vote voted. But again, back then, women couldn't, and so on. Yeah. So in modern day, we're going to see a historic percentage, which the last time was the 61% of the Trump Clinton. And that was a historic percentage of people voted. What are your thoughts? Do you think that favors Trump or favors Biden?
Yeah, I gotta say it favors Trump. Just going off of the registration records and data alone, I would think that favors Trump. I mean, I've heard lots of things about last election. Well, a lot of Hillary voters didn't come out because they thought she was going to walk away with it. But you could say the same thing about Trump voters not going out for Trump because they thought he'd automatically lose, right? So you don't really know. But I've never witnessed this amount of energy in the Republican Party, like for a candidate before. They don't run get out the vote campaigns. They don't do all these parades. It's very interesting. But again, the polls would have to be even more historically wrong than they were last time. But then again, this is a really weird time, man. Like when you put a Trump sign on your lawn, you're in danger of having a Molotov cocktail thrown in your house by a leftist. So I get why people wouldn't want to say it much. I don't usually come out with it until I know somebody else is a Trump supporter, and it's not because I'm not proud of it. It's just I'm not going to invoke that type of wrath in my neighborhood or on my family from some idiot teenager.
Yeah, and I think everyone at times can be hesitant to talk about it. You see a lot more in this house than you do the Biden signs, because again, it's one of those, can't get mad at me if I say in this house, love is love, right? It's like one of those, we're going to use semantics to make sure no one can get upset. Although I think people have, can read between the lines. I don't know what to make of the historic amount of people voting is that favor Trump, favor Biden. I think, again, I'm going off the anecdotal evidence of just the massive energy that you see from people more in the Trump, and then you see Biden holds a rally and literally it's like 40 cars. And I saw on CNN, they tried to dispute. Trump said there was 12 people who came or something, 25 people who came. And they then said that was wrong. It was dozens. And I'm like, you mean like 2 dozen, like 24? I mean, you can just see it. I just get this sense, not to mention in the polls, Trump is gaining in 9 of the 12 swing states. He's gaining ground in the polls right now. So I still think this is favoring Trump. And I think the biggest thing that tells me it favors Trump is when you look at the change in the debate viewership. Back in 2016, the ratings were heavily weighted to NBC and ABC. And this year, Fox took all of them by a landslide when it came to ratings. That says something to me that the people who are tuning in are going to Fox News, which I think we all know is a relatively right-winged or right-leaning organization. I don't think that's a surprise to anyone. So, all right. All right, 30 seconds of bliss, Chris. You ready?
Oh, geez.
You're not.
Get ready. No, just be ready to edit out all of my comments.
So for those of you who don't know what 30 seconds of bliss is, I'm going to give Chris a headline, and Chris has 30 seconds to spew off anything that you can. All right. So, Chris, let me get my stopwatch ready. My stopwatch.
30 seconds of boringness before the 30 seconds of bliss.
Yeah, exactly. All right. So here is what the headline is. I'll give you a couple of seconds to think. Adele and SNL come under fire for Africa sex tourism sketch. Adele and SNL come under fire for Africa sex tourism sketch. Are you ready?
God, I guess so. Africa sex tourism sketch?
Yes, Adele and SNL come under fire.
Okay, I mean, other headlines, Adele stopped eating and did something else. Another possible headline, like it could have been, Swedish sex trafficking, but they would have called her a racist for it, so they chose Africa. I'm surprised they can traffic that well in Africa. Adele doesn't look that fast, and my understanding is those children, they know how to run. I mean, the Kenyans are distance runners, right? So, SNL, Adele, maybe she's been in Africa already, been stealing their food, and that's why she got so fat. And then, oh no, I don't know, maybe. That's all I got. I got nothing else. What is the story about?
Stop.
Your internet sucks right now.
I know. But you were talking the whole time? Hopefully that worked.
I was. I didn't have. Yeah.
Not. So 30 seconds of bliss. Adele. I knew we were going to be talking about Adele's size. All right. So let's move on to sports updates, sports news and sports updates. All right. Sad news, I think, for the NFL. Odell Beckham is he's out for the year. Tore his ACL, which adds to a rash of injuries, especially that spiked up real early. I feel like they're bad this year, but maybe that's just welcome to 2020. I don't know. What are your thoughts?
Was Odell Beckham even doing that well this year?
Yeah, I think he threw his helmet once because he was really pissed about a game.
I mean, I guess the silver lining is I did trade Jimmy Garoppolo for Jarvis Landry not that long ago, so that's looking up, right?
No, Odell Beckham. I mean, the Browns in general, I think, are 5-2. Although they barely beat the Bengals, they don't look great. This doesn't help their chances, especially.
I don't think injuries have been worse though. I don't really think they have.
Well, they were the first 2 weeks. There was a pretty significant rash of torn ACLs and so on. It quieted down for a little bit, but now losing Odell Beckham really sucks. And then obviously the COVID news. So here's my big question. Now we're 7 weeks through the NFL season. Until tonight, we'll talk about the big game tonight. I got my Bears hat. I had my Bears cup. So a lot of talk was made at the biggest news story in the NFL prior to the season outside of COVID, of course, was Tom Brady leaving the Patriots and going to the Buccaneers. We're now 7 weeks in, and a lot of people thought this was going to be a good chance to see who was more important, Brady or Belichick. We're now 7 weeks through the year. Has either one of them proven that they were the real reason that the Patriots dynasty existed, more so than the other?
It looks a lot like Brady right now. If we're doing it in a vacuum in 1 year, it looks like Brady. But I don't know how fair that is. I feel like when you're talking about coaching and losing a guy like Brady, you got to give the guy a few years and see what he does with it, right? Like it's like you don't get another star quarterback overnight. He's living with Cam Newton, who's been very pedestrian outside of the first game. And if you look at records alone, obviously Brady's doing better. So I think in a vacuum for this year, it's Brady. No doubt. But given time, Belichick may still prove that a lot of it was coaching. I guess a lot of it's going to depend. Put it this way. Brady has more to win and lose this season than Belichick. If Brady does bad, Belichick sort of wins that. If Brady does good, Belichick can still redeem that in a few years with, good drafts and whatnot.
And my thought is, to some extent, it shows that they both were relying on each other pretty heavily. Because Brady, the Bears beat Brady. And the Bears defense made him look really not that great. He's had some flashes of brilliance, but again, he's got incredible weapons and you name it. So the team has not been bad. And Belichick at times has showed what he can do with the defense. Yeah. You watch the Patriots-Chiefs game, through the first 3 quarters, the Patriots shut the Chiefs down and made the Chiefs look like the Bears offense. And then the Chiefs broke out. So I think you're seeing a little bit of both, that the two of them together was what made it so special. Yeah. That individually they're both fine, but together they were incredible. All right. Any other NFL news from that you wanted to talk about?
Well, Antonio Brown just signed with the Bucs. We talked a bit about that. What are your thoughts on that?
Is that news? I know Bruce Arians came out and said, we think he's a little bit more stable. And he said he called him an insurance policy. I don't know what that means. But for the coach to come out and say that, they clearly don't think he's going to take over for Mike Evans or Chris Godwin.
No, he'd be third behind those for sure. I don't think he can play until after week 8. And I guess when you're looking at win now, you're not as worried about culture. You're just going like, can we figure this out for a year? So if I'm a Bucs fan, I think I like the move, but my God, that guy has been toxic.
Yeah. Yeah. Although he played pretty well with Tom Brady for the 1 or 2 weeks.
And they have a good rapport together. He stayed at Brady's house and, I hope it works out for him. I do.
I agree. I don't like seeing these guys flame out, especially guys with such talent. I wish that the environment around him would help him kind of normalize rather than him lose his mind around all these places. I know it was pretty sad watching the kind of spiral he went in a year or 2 ago. So hopefully this is a new start for him, and he can figure things out, because it would be a cool story. All right, college football news. My Wisconsin Badgers are back, and they crushed U of I, just obliterated University of Illinois on Friday in the first Big Ten football game. And they had gotten their first significant quarterback recruit in years. 2 years ago, he was the number 1 pocket passer coming out when he did. And then last year, he sat on the bench the whole year, which I was surprised by. So he gets a chance to start, comes out, ties the record for most completions in a row by a Wisconsin Badger, has a huge game. And then Sunday hits, and Graham Mertz has been sidelined with COVID. I mean, welcome to the year of Tiger King, right? Like, holy cow, this is incredible.
Yeah, I want to go on the record saying beating Illinois is like, I don't know, that's like the Steelers beating the Jets. Illinois has been a trash football team for a long time, and they'll probably remain a trash football team for a long time.
Yeah, it was just too bad to see that he got, he gets COVID, and he has to, by the Big Ten rules, sit out for 21 days.
Yeah, that sucks.
I don't quite understand, and he has to get all sorts of testing done and everything else. Again, welcome to the year of the Tiger King.
Yeah.
All right, the World Series has been actually really, really entertaining. Game 4 on Saturday night with a wild walk-off win. I don't know if anyone saw it, with a crazy error-filled last play, which put the Rays even at 2-2 with the Dodgers, and then yesterday the Dodgers came back and won 3-2. Is anyone else out there rooting against LA just because it's California, and I hate seeing California teams win anything?
The only news I've been following about baseball is how they are record low ratings for the playoffs. Or sorry, for the World Series. Nobody's watching them. So when you say they're really exciting, nobody's watching.
Yeah, I think the sports leagues miscalculated the 21 90-day rule, and they really misunderstood that just because they were going to come back, people were going to watch. I thought the social justice, although it wasn't much in baseball, didn't help. I think they miscalculated, although I don't think that's why ratings are down. I think the ratings were going to be down regardless, and they needed to do something that were going to pipe up ratings. And I think they did something that pushed some people away. Yeah. And I think that was a big, big mistake. I'm watching, I know that happened with basketball because I refused to watch. And I know a lot of other people who did the same based on really social justice more than anything else. So, all right, Gambler's Corner. Gambler's Corner. We don't have a lot. Last week, we all lost the Eagles game. All three of us lost it.
Yeah, we did.
Right now, we got one game to talk about tonight. It's the Bears and the Rams, Monday Night Football, the Bears. So, Chris, what do you got for us?
The Bears are getting 6 points right now. And I can tell you for one, not only am I betting the spread, $30, I'm betting 10 on the money line for Bears to win straight up. Primetime Bears defense, do not discount it, man. They play tough, and they beat the Rams last time they played.
I picked the Bears straight up, but I will absolutely, for Gambler's Corner purposes, put my fake $10 on the Bears with the, I'll take the 6 points. I'm really surprised that a team that is 5-1 is somehow a 6-point dog is shocking to me. That's so nuts. I'm wondering where the sharp money is going. I'm guessing it is going to the Bears, but I could be wrong.
Question: are you ready to go in on a $1,000 bet for Trump winning the presidency with me? 500 apiece. Ready to make some money?
Oh boy, woof. Yeah, I'm kind of there. What do we got for odds?
Let's take a look real quick on the Trump presidency. Betting odds. Trump, we've got 34 cents to win $1.
Wow. That's like 3-1. Yeah. I think I'm in.
Yeah, I think I'm going to get my brother. I can't bet where I am, but I think my brother can in Chicago. I might give him the cash.
Yeah. Yes. So the answer is yes. I'm in for 500, and I will deal with my wife later. The one nice thing is betting on Trump is something I think she could wrap her brain around.
I agree.
So yes, if I'm getting 3-1 odds on it, yes, that's awesome.
Point. Yeah.
I'll be surprised if we can actually get it.
Look, it's at least 50-50. It's not, right now it's 66 cents to win $1 for Biden. So.
All right. So yes.
I might be calculating that incorrectly, by the way, because that doesn't make sense. Because then you could bet both and you'd win money no matter what. But it's a 34.5 betting odds. I don't know what that means, betting what to win what. I got to look into that a little bit more. Let me figure that out.
But yes, I'm in 500.
Yeah.
All right. Serious or satire? Let's get to our serious or satire. We're going to do it the way you and I did it last time, Chris. I got 3 headlines. You tell me which one is real. I got 3 headlines. You tell me which one is real.
All right. Let's hear it.
All right. Bot bot orders $18,752 of McSundays every 30 minutes.
Bot? What is bot? Like a robot?
Like a computer bot orders $18,752 of McSundays every 30 minutes to find out if machines are working.
Interesting. Okay, next.
Let me find my next one. Business informer Chop says 4 months later, area is still not back to normal. And my last one, Bernie Sanders on Biden's list for housing secretary due to his experience owning lots of houses.
Third one is satire.
I thought it was pretty good, though.
That's pretty good, though. I like that. That's awesome.
So how about that headline? Business informer Chop says 4 months later, area is still not back to normal.
Gosh,
no kidding.
Nuts, man.
No kidding. Shocking that it's not back to normal. And then, yes, there was a engineer who created it's an app called McBroken, which every 30 minutes orders $18,000 worth of McSundays so that you or I at 1 a.m. can find out if we want to, you know how the machines are always broken and you're always like at like midnight or whatever, you want to get a sundae. And like they are well known for their ice cream machines being broken. So he created an app that will find out if it's 38,000 locations soft serve ice cream is down or not.
That's kind of crazy.
So it doesn't actually buy it; it just orders it.
Small update on Gambler's Quarter. In my slow, bad research, I just found out that it is illegal in all 50 states to bet on the election. So
correct. It's not legal. So, but we need to find out how, because I think you can place bets in the UK. The fear is, how do you get the money out of it?
Yeah. Let's let Phelps do that.
So, in my other way that I thought about just betting is putting that money in the stock market, because if Trump wins, it's going up.
That's true.
And if Biden wins, it's going down. So that was my other way of doing it. All right. Move on to Prognostication Station. All right. Do you see an October surprise happening in the next 8 days? A significant October surprise. It was 11 days before the election when the email from Comey hit last time. Do you see anything happening this time?
Well, I think the Biden ramp up is the October surprise, but I think they're saving their most damning evidence for probably this week. I think we're going to see at least one more thing come out that is even more damning, because right now it just looks bad. Hunter Biden making a bunch of money off his dad's name is not criminal. It just looks bad, right? In his defense. What makes it criminal is if Biden has clear ties to helping his son doing this while being a VP, or if they can prove Biden was compensated at all, which I don't know if they're going to do, but I believe that there's going to be a bit more of a smoking gun coming out. I think they've been strategically leaking this evidence. Although with the early voting, maybe they shot their shot and they put out what's out there. And that was
if not, they need to do it today or tomorrow.
Yeah.
Let's say it that way. All right. ACB, our new Supreme Court justice, is supposedly going to go up for vote tonight. Do you think by tomorrow morning we will have a new Supreme Court justice?
100%. She's got the votes. We already know that. I think Murkowski came out and said she's a yes. Yeah. So, yep, we're good. I mean, we would have had him without her, but we have it hands down. We don't need a VP tiebreaker.
Absolutely.
Yep.
Do you think anyone is going to force Biden to answer the packing the courts question this week?
Absolutely not. And he did kind of answer it already. Did you hear his answer?
Yes.
Yeah, so I don't know how to paraphrase this without looking at it, but it sounded to me the way he said it was him saying he was not going to pack the court, but he had to say it in such a way that it still placated the left. I don't actually think Biden wants to pack the court.
Yeah, because it's not popular in America. Some 70% of people are against it. But
I don't think Biden is an evil person. I just don't. I think his party is. I think the left is. And I think they would be running a lot of the presidency. I don't think he's in control of his own faculties. I don't think Biden is an evil person. And I think he knows enough to go, that would be a major mistake. That would just create a domino effect down the road. That would be just a nightmare for the country.
I agree. I thought he was going to be very moderate. I thought he was going to be the most moderate. And unfortunately, his campaign has showed that he's not really in control of it. But the good news is he has built the largest voter fraud organization in the history.
It's impressive. I got to.
Last but not least, Presidential election. I think we've already done it, but we're going to keep doing it. Who do you think will win? Not who would you vote for? Who do you think will win the presidential election? And do you think there will be an answer next Tuesday?
If I had to bet money, even if it was even odds, both candidates, I would bet Trump. I would bet Trump. And do I think we'll have a final answer? I 100% do. Because when you look at the voter registration and you look at the votes that have come in, I think there'll be actually, so when you look at early voter absentee ballots, Republicans have way more, but have sent them in way less. So if anything, they're going to look at that and go, the only ballots coming in are going to be absentee Republicans. They're not going to be Democrats. So as long as Trump is won on election day, I think they're going to be able to call it.
Okay. I agree. I think Trump will win. I will say no, we will not, by the time we go to bed on Tuesday night, have a clear answer.
The question is over under on the cities that'll have riots when he wins.
Every single one. Every single one.
Yeah.
Every major city is going to have riots. In fact, it was one thing that I was told by a few people in Chicago prior to us leaving that they were not going to stay in the city on that day. Like they were going to be gone.
100%
just because, I mean, Chicago, if Trump wins, I mean, it's going to be a disaster.
Yep.
And that's a sad state of our country that's how things will be. Yep. I really hope if it's the other way around, if Biden somehow wins, that people, disappointed and go
back to work the next day, like what the hell? Huh?
So, all right, let's move on to our top five non-establishment people to run in 2024. So I know it's a little early. We haven't even hit the campaign trail for 2024 yet, but Chris and I have 5 people we would like to see run for the presidency. Not your typical, hey, this guy's the mayor of this or the former governor of this state. Non-establishment people to run in 2024, and I would love to hear if we missed someone really good. So, Chris, I will let you go first.
So it's not just the person, but it's the strategy behind it, right? President, the CEO of MyPillow, and as VP, the CEO of Goya Foods. Just imagine the strategy, man. He just opens up a can of beans, feeds it to his opponents. MyPillow guy just goes, shh, vote for this policy, right? I forgot about that. It's a good combo.
I do like the MyPillow guy. He's got a great story. All right, so my number 5. This one's a very real one and kind of establishment, I guess. I don't know if you would call it establishment or not.
I'll be the judge.
No, you be the judge. Tell me if this is too much of a Phelps one. Jared Kushner. Okay. So listen, for those of you, I'm going to do a free advertising for Ben Shapiro's podcast. Listen to the Jared Kushner interview from last night or whatever, Sunday or whatever it was. Jared Kushner is awesome. And by the way, even though Trump is getting a lot of credit for the Middle East, Jared Kushner is the one who really is negotiating the foreign policy. And that's arguably Trump's best thing. He has stabilized the Middle East like we have not seen in my lifetime. Yep. I mean, it's shocking. So I think the guy is awesome. Jared Kushner, I had never really listened to him speak until last night. I would love to see him run.
Number 4, Mike Ditka.
God, you just know.
Did you have him?
Yes, it's my number 1.
I told you we were going to have some overlap here.
I thought there was no way. I'm like, I got the best one ever, Ditka.
Why Ditka, though?
Why? First off, from an actual political standpoint, I don't know if you've heard him talk, but he definitely, we agree on a lot of different stances. But on top of it, is there a greater personality than Ditka? I mean, SNL back when it was really good did whole skits on Ditka, and everyone loves Ditka. The guy is outspoken. He's like a sports version of Trump. Are you muted? You're muted.
You want to go back to skits? Yeah, here would be my reason. Who would win in a fight, Ditka or God?
I know what he says too. He goes, "That's a redundant question."
Trick question. Ditka is God. Bears.
Ditka versus the bear bus.
All right, you're number 3.
No, it's my number 4. You took
number 4, yeah.
Number 4. All right, I will go. I have 2 options here. I will go Clay Travis. So,
I like that pick, and I took it off my list just because it was too real and we'd have too much overlap.
Yep.
But I
Clay
would love him as
Travis.
president. He'd be great. And he would be a centrist candidate, a true centrist candidate, I think.
100%. I'm a big fan of Clay Travis.
Okay. My number 3, VP Linda Hamilton, President Sigourney Weaver. But they would have to stay in character from Aliens 2 for Sigourney Weaver and Terminator 2 for Linda Hamilton.
That's fantastic. All right. I love that. I love that. And to go off of that, I have my number 3. I have the entire cabinet filled out.
Oh,
and
damn.
It's the entire cast of Cheers.
Oh, so hell yeah.
Ted Danson, clearly he's like the womanizing kind of guy. So he's going to be the president. I mean, that's because they all have their issues, with women. And then you have, you have George Wendt, who does nothing but sits at the bar, which is a pure government worker. So he'll probably not Secretary of State. He'd be like, maybe Secretary of Education. So you have the whole cabinet laid out right there. So
I like that. That's good. I guess for a more serious pick, and this is a legitimate prediction in betting odds, is Ben Shapiro.
My gosh, we do have more overlap than I thought.
I told you.
He was on my backup, and I went with Clay Travis, which I'm glad I did. All right, so my number 3, because he has not turned me off yet, but I'm afraid of what he might do, but I've seen some good things out of him. He is a little bit out there, is Elon Musk. Think about now, he would be weird. He would come up with some crazy ideas.
He's a capitalist, though. I could see an Elon Musk, Andrew Yang type ticket, 2 weird tech guys, Tech. Okay, but Musk is pro-business. I'm good with that. Number 1, and I say this because I just listened to about half of his interview with Joe Rogan the other day. I think Kanye's going to make a legitimate run at this. I think he is. The guy's found God. I like where his moral compass is centered, and I think it's there to stick.
Kanye, I can get around Kanye. He is don't know that I would vote for him for president, but I could see him in the cabinet.
Can you? No, he would not take a cabinet position. No, he would take. He may make governor in a few years, but then he'll be there eventually.
Riddle me this. I don't know if you've seen the amount of rappers that have come out in major support of Donald Trump.
Many. Yeah,
and the most recent one I had actually never heard of, and his most recent it's Lil Pump, and Waka Flocka, both Trump supporting rappers. And then you have 50 Cent, which I think
he had a great line about Biden wants to turn me into 20 Cent. I love that line. That was hilarious. You had, how about, this was not an endorsement, but Ice Cube, trying to asked to meet with both Biden and Trump to talk about, Plan for Black America. Biden said, we'll talk to you after the election. What did Trump do? He made time. He sat down with him. He talked to him. He heard him out. That's what Trump does. So I don't know that's him endorsing Trump necessarily, but he's at least saying, hey, Trump sat down for the conversation. Biden told me after the election. Just exactly how they operate. Let me get your vote, and then let me do nothing for you.
Yep. And my number 1, we've already said it, is Mike Ditka. So in conclusion, we both had 5 candidates. There was 1 overlap. So pretty clear we know who the winner is.
Okay, lightning round. Best American Pie character to be president. Go.
Stifler.
Okay. Best Seinfeld character to be president.
None. They're all trying to flip a blue state right now. I'm sick of the Seinfeld peon.
Okay. Which Arnold Schwarzenegger role would be best as president?
Terminator.
Okay, I was going to say when he was in Twins. I like the emotive. Empathetic there.
Kindergarten Cop.
Which Batman universe, based on all the Batmans that have come out, would you prefer the country to look like after the election?
The Dark Knight.
I'm going to go with Batman Forever, Batman 3, just because it's harmless and not scary.
The Dark Knight was awesome. And
it was
filmed in Chicago. I'm still a Chicago guy.
It's too real. I'm surprised they could afford to film that in Chicago. They charge an arm and a leg. Good for them.
Yeah.
All right.
I think that's it for today's show. Hopefully you guys enjoyed it. Again, please, if you loved it, Please follow us and subscribe on YouTube or Spotify or whatever. Share it on your Instagram or your Facebook. And do me a favor, go to Twitter and follow us. Yeah, I think it's follow us at notsosilentpod, at notsosilentpod. Follow us, or our facebook.com/notsosilentpod. Same with Instagram. All right, goodbye. You got me late, got me invaded, you got me going. I like the lightning rounds.
Yeah, you know. So it's off the cuff. I was feeling it. Felt like that's what the people wanted.
That's what the people wanted.
Give them
Or the 7 that listened.
Give them what they want, unless they're Antifa.